Yes, I was told to talk about the work we've been doing on the Star Street precinct. What we call the Star Street. Yes, the Star Street precinct revitalization project, which is a public-private partnership project. We've been working on it for about a year and a half. Now, the Star Street area is very special. It's very unusual in the history of Hong Kong. In fact, in 1860, 1870, even before the Reformation, the Star Street area was the first European development in Wan Chai. In those days, the Roman Catholic Church took hold and built a convent, their chapel, and in fact, eventually, the Roman Catholic cemetery. Now, we all heard about the street St. Francis Yard, St. Francis Street. Now, this is a 1922 map of the area. Now, originally, on St. Francis Yard, there was the St. Francis Chapel. Now, but St. Francis actually referred to St. Francis Xavier rather than St. Francis of Assisi, the Jesuit who wanted to come to China but never quite managed to reach China, and died in St. John's Island, just off the coast of Macau. And the original Canossian sisters built a hospital there, the St. Francis Hospital, which eventually was merged into the Canossa Hospital on Low Peak Road now. So there was originally the Roman Catholic settlement in Hong Kong, or what Isherwood might call a wheat from old Catholic Europe. And then after that, of course, with the church, with the convent, came the cemetery. And there was also not only the Roman Catholic cemetery, but also the Protestant cemetery on the site. Now, this plan, which we see drew up in 1922, was in fact the post-Roman Catholic plan when they exhumed the cemetery, when they moved the Canossian sisters up the hill, and when they moved the St. Francis Hospital. And they built a number of tenements on the site. Now, originally, now this is what today we would call Star Street. So you can see that the Star Street was, in fact, separated into two parts by this row of tenement houses. The Kwong Ming Street actually went all the way up to the hill. Now, all these words about Kwong Ming, stars and sun, someone said that it was related to the very first electricity generator in the area. There was, in fact, an electric plant in the area. Hence, all these reference to sun, moon, and star to do with power. But I don't know. I don't know whether that is the case, or whether subconsciously, whether the Roman Catholic past and the past of the cemetery actually wanted people to erase the shadow of the past by having words and names which are much more to do with the light rather than the shades and the shadow of the death. And strangely, even with all these words of sun, stars, and moons, if you actually go to the area now, it still has a very, very strange atmosphere. And it's a very unusual atmosphere. I mean, people like Ian Sinclair or Peter Ackroyd would say that an area could never shake off its history. A place which, during the great plague of London was a kind of pit, mass grave, will always retain that kind of slightly shadowy, kind of shady kind of feel, 400 years after the event. Now, places evolve, but they never quite become another place, no matter how you try to erase them by taking down all the buildings and cutting down the trees and even changing the earthscape. The character and the myth and the history of the place lingers on for hundreds of years. Now, Star Street is one of those areas in Hong Kong where you can still feel and smell the history of 150 years. And that's why we are particularly interested in working in the area and with the area. Now, when we look at a photograph of the area in about 1910, down St. Francis Street after a typhoon, the whole street collapsed. There was, in fact, an underground river. There used to be a river running down St. Francis, and in fact, or a stream, and it was kind of covered up. But then during typhoon, the street would collapse, and then you actually you expose, or you see the history, and you start to realize the secret river, the secret history of the area. This is 1959. Now, Kwong Street was still there, the tenements were still there, and Star Street was still not a through road. 72, and for those who could still remember, 72, Kwong Street was still there. So Star Street was actually a relatively new layer, a relatively new phenomenon. It has not always been there. But of course, in 2008, Star Street is a through street. Yeah. And in place of some of those tenements, now you have the what the LCSD would call open sit-out area, one of those names. In that part of Star Street, which has a great change of land level. Now, this is the place now, if you look at it, from PB3, Star Street, Sun Moon. Now, the area today is a combination of small motor workshops, warehouses, craft workshop. It has a kind of semi-industrial feel, but then there are also small restaurants, bars, and there are people who buy up some of these flats and do it up